First, I'd like to say thanks for coming to the museum to hear the second of a six-part oral history series. The program that is sponsoring this, if you will, is supported in part by a grant from the Wisconsin Arts Board with funds from the state of Wisconsin and the National Endowment for the Arts. So this is number 2, and our guest today is Norbert Brylski, who worked at Hamilton for a good stretch of time in a number of different places. But welcome. Thanks for coming.
Well, thank you for having me here. And may I say welcome everybody to Hamilton Wood Type and Printing Museum. I've been associated with this place since Memorial Day in 1999. I remember that day very good because that's when I bought my Mercury Cougar. And I had it till I died, till just a little while ago, till my daughters over there told me to get rid of it. And they said they'll haul me around. But anyway, what he wants to know really is, where was I born? Well, I was born in a quaint little village, sort of west of Green Bay, called Pulaski, Wisconsin. Used to have a big monastery there with the Franciscans, the fathers in there, and then they had a big, beautiful church and all of that. And every house had an outdoor toilet and a dug well. There was no waterworks in town at all. And that would have been, I was born, that was 1924 that I was born. It was just before the Depression, you know, about maybe 10 years, 8 years before the Depression hit. But there was a nice little town, a village over there to have been born into, you know. And the grade school was about, you know, from our back stairs. We walked about maybe 50 steps, and you're in the alley, and then you go to the left and you walk about 100 steps, and I was in school. I didn't have to worry about walking to school in this ice, you know, in the winter with this icy blast blowing and all that. There's lots of different things about Pulaski that I remember, but it has nothing to do with printing.
Well, maybe we can come back to that. You know, I think that you had once told me that while you grew up in Pulaski and your parents lived there, they weren't born in Pulaski.
No, my dad, he's Polish, you know, and well, naturally my name is Polish. Poland had no borders. There were about, it was divided between like 4 different countries. And so then when he emigrated from Europe, it was from some place in Germany. And then he came to Pulaski, and then somewhere there he got to teach at the Franciscan Fathers. And he knew lots of languages and all of that. So that's how he came to Pulaski. This school that he was teaching for, you know, but they moved the school to Sturtevant. And they call it St. Bonaventure High School in Sturtevant. And then they asked him to go over there and keep on teaching over there. And he already had a family and that, so then he refused to go there. So then he got a job in a bank. It wasn't one of the main banks in town. It was a Liberty State Bank. And then Depression already had started, and lots of your banks were going belly up, belly up. And the bank where he worked at went belly up also. So he was without a job again. So then the Franciscans hired him as a corresponding secretary or whatever it was there. And probably already had tuberculosis. And then he eventually died off of the tuberculosis. The Franciscans sort of took our family under their wing, especially me. They sent me through their high school in Sturtevant at St. Bonaventure High School. They probably figure I'd become a priest, but I never.
That didn't work.
No. But it was a liberal education, you know. That I would probably have been better off with some kind of technical work and stuff like that than learn Latin and Greek and all of that. And to this day, I don't remember very much of that stuff. 41, you had Pearl Harbor. And then 42 in June, we graduated from there. Milwaukee, his job was in a plastic factory. So eventually I got into Cutler and Hammer. I was wiring all of these motors that they used on submarines and all of that stuff. Very interesting. But then my buddy, you know, there was a Jerome Nitch, a fellow student at St. Bonaventure. But we always hit it well over there. He and I decided to enlist. And we enlisted in the Signal Corps, Army Signal Corps. And then we got into service. And they sent us to like Fort Crowder in Missouri.
That was for basic training?
For basic training, yeah. We went to the East Coast to some kind of a Camp Davis or something in New Jersey, and then Fort Monmouth is their big Signal Corps camp over there. And they taught me how to climb poles, you know, and all of that. And I was a good telephone man. I wasn't much of a radio man. And anyway, so we went overseas. First we went to Liverpool and then Bournemouth and Plymouth and all of there. And then we took care of the Army signal installation, telephone. Mm-hmm. And that was my job to take care of all of that stuff. And then we traveled all over England. They were holding us all back, you know, from the invasion. In fact, we were in England when the invasion started, you know. They were holding us back for the invasion of Norway. So as soon as the war was over in Europe and Germany and France and over there, they shipped us to Norway under the British control. There were 15,000 British soldiers and 5,000 American soldiers. You got home and you got tired of just doing nothing. So one time I went to the Franciscans and asked them if they would take me on as to teach me printing and all of that. you know, that St. Bonaventure High School had a print shop in there, but I never I didn't have time for printing. I was more in sports. I was in every sport they had over there. You know. I didn't want to print, you know. But anyway, to make a living, I was there. And then also the local telephone owner over there. I mentioned that I was a telephone man, and he contacted Green Bay Telephone Company. So at the same day, you know, the Franciscans okayed me, and the telephone company called me up, you know. And then the telephone company, well, I said, I don't have any car to drive back to Green Bay and all of that. And my dad was dead already. He died, you know, when I was about 7th grade. So I had nobody to really fall back on, really, you know, to tell me what to do and all of that. So anyway, I took the printing over there. That's where I learned my first printing. And then I was running the Mealy press. Mm-hmm. And then I was also running the Kluge. And while I was at the Franciscan, your printing was already changing. You know, your offset was coming in and all of that. First came your, not a mimeograph machine, I guess was about the first one that came on. Mm-hmm. And every year some new outfit. But then lots of your hot printers, you know, were losing their jobs at that time. All the newspapers were switching over to offset, and all these people that used to run the line type machines, they lost their jobs because of all that offset took over there.
Would that have been right around the late 40s? Something like that?
Yes, it would have been the late 40s. Mm-hmm. Anyway, the Franciscans, then they asked me one time, did I ever think about going into printing for myself? And I said, no, I never thought of that stuff. But anyway, they somehow talked me into it, and I got some old letterpress stuff over there and all that, which spent 17 years on my own over there. I know I even built the printing shop in the form of a 2-car garage. My uncles and cousins built it for me. They were carpenters, Kozicki brothers. And they built, I think I gave them $750 they asked for it. And nowadays, I don't know, it would have cost a lot more money.
Mm-hmm. Then were you an offset and a letterpress shop when you had your own place?
No, I couldn't buy anything. The only machine I bought, and which was I bought a Kluge though, an automatic, and I bought that because I needed something for longer runs and all that. But you have to figure Pulaski was only a small village, and there never was enough business there. So I remember going into Green Bay one time, a few times, and then every time I got a customer from Green Bay, I had a hard time collecting off of them.
So somewhere in there, you found time to get married and have kids, or at least to begin to have kids, and then somehow learn about Hamilton, right?
Well, I had lots of Hamilton equipment. I had the stone in there, which is steel, naturally. Right. This one was steel. And I had your type cabinets, and then I had your, what else did I have from Hamilton? Yeah, well, that's about it. And then I had some wood type and all of that. So there's, and then one time I went to the employment office in Green Bay. Besides, I wanted to get out of that printing. And they said, well, there's no one really hiring in Green Bay right now, but I hear that Miro and Hamilton will hire you right away if you want to work for $1.50 an hour, you know. Well, I was sort of desperate. I had to get, sort of steady income because I had to feed the family and all of that. So I took a ride into Two Rivers one day, and I about where the fire station is. The road, one road went to Miro, the other road went to Hamilton, you know. So then, well, I said, I think what put me on Hamilton, I said, I got that equipment in there, so I know Hamilton, you know, I better go there. So I went into the office, and they hired me right away. In fact, they wanted me to start that. I said, no, I got to have a day or two to settle my stuff over there. So anyway, Hamilton hired me, and then they put me in a type shop right away. And besides, my whole tenure at the Hamilton was spent in a type shop. They never switched me to any other place over there because I was valuable.
Well, nothing's changed, Norb. No.
I mean, some key people, like the key person that I have, I don't know if any of you people remember Vic Mixa. He used to be my guy that was teaching me everything over there. And anyway, as soon as I got into Hamilton, well, they always put the guy on the toughest machines, which at this time were the height machines, you know, the sandpaper and all that to make the wood and all of that. And these machines, the type shop used to be on the second floor right across from the administration building. And at that, when I was hired, the height machines were in a basement. So anyway, the guy showed me how to run him over there 1 or 2 times over there, and then a few little things, and left me alone. So then I got to study the machine and how it works and all of that stuff. And it worked very good. I got it humming, and just humming away, and the wood was running out. And I was running so much wood, I took a walk upstairs. Usually I punched in and I went right down to the machine, and I haven't been upstairs, you know, for a long time. So one time I took a walk upstairs, and I see all of this wood. The whole floor is covered with this wood that I ran. And they had no more room for my production. So anyway, they brought me back upstairs. And they also brought the height machines upstairs on the 3rd floor. And next to my outfit, there was another department that was sort of connected with where they used to make the cutting sticks, you know, for these paper cutters, that little strip
right.
sticks and all of that. It was a one-man shop, and he made reglets and stuff like that. So they gave him the job of running the height machine, which was all right with me. And he was good with machines too.
Vic was?
This guy's name was Ratajczyk. He died quite young. But anyway, he took that job from me. And then the foreman, which was Frank Blahnik, he put me on cutting this tape off the pantograph. Then you have to cut the tape apart, and then you have to, there are other small things you have to do with that tape and all of that kind of stuff. And it was my job to, all the work went really through me, you know, except a pantograph work. And then, so then I had to keep the trimmers, you know, supplied. And there were about 4 or 5 trimmers at that time, and you had to hop, you know. And I know I got, with that saw, I got the tip of this finger one time cut. I got this finger halfway cut through the bone with a grooving saw. Grooving saw. And anyway, but yeah, I know each time that I had got something cut off over there, I came back to work the same day. So I said, there's a bandage. I said, what? I mean, the other fingers work. Well, maybe I couldn't stand losing a day's wages, maybe.
Well, there are a couple of things that I want to ask you about. You know, now you get the job in Two Rivers, but you still have a family in Pulaski. Did you just up and move everybody?
No, I used to drive back and forth. That was exactly 50 miles, you know, one way. But then I still had my print shop there. Every time I came home, there used to always be some kind of printing to do. So I printed, but then, you know, we had lots of overtime in the type shop, even with the type shop going, you know, on the rocks and all of that. All our customers were getting older and all of that, and then what sort of got out of business, and then nobody bought their business, so then there went the customers. And maybe they were lucky to get in this Jim Kearns, who bought all of this Hamilton machinery, and then he moved it toward the Grumman. There was a building right next to Grumman's that was empty, and we moved all of this equipment into there.
Well, one of the things that, you know, first of all, you were talking about working on the height machine, and for those of us who are printers or familiar with Hamilton, that is an automatic understanding. But do you mind just a little explanation of what the height machine was for?
Well, the height machine, in fact, making wood printing type, it starts with the height machine. If you didn't have the wood, besides the logs that they use are maple logs, and they had one primary
Like supplier?
vendor, supplier of logs. There was the Algoma Lumber Company. Maple lumber, that's a very expensive wood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very hard wood. And then it takes a knack in drying that wood.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, otherwise, if you don't do certain things at a certain time, all of that wood is going to get these checks in there. And so you have to be very careful how you prepare that wood. You have to have special rooms for it.
Oh, like a kiln.
But no, not a kiln. A sort of a closed room, and then you have to have racks where you put your wood.
Mm-hmm.
First, you have to saw them, like slices of bread. And then you put them in there, and then you close the room, and there's almost like water. That wood it has to be done in spring, otherwise the sun would crack all of that wood down to nothing. And then you close the room, no air or anything in there, and then you watch it very carefully. As soon as you notice a little mold forming on the wood, and then you open up the doors and put in some fans and start moving the air in there. And slowly that wood over there, it takes the whole year for that wood really to sit on those racks, and it dries. When it does dry, it's perfect. It comes out, no cracks, no chips or anything on there. And it was. I only did it one time. My daughter asked me the other day, "You did that only one time? Didn't Hamilton do that? Well, the shop never did it. The other department in Hamilton used to dry that wood for us. And then she says, well, they used to put it in a kiln. I said, yes, they used to put it in a kiln at first, a long time ago, but then I think when it got where these our customers, they start making that or supplying that wood type for their small printing presses, more like a proof brush than anything. They didn't need real dry wood like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Although as time went by, the wood did shrink because there was still some moisture in it,
Well, when you went from the Hamilton factory over to 26th, it was a small operation. That was all cutting type, right?
Well, it started, but there weren't that many customers either then. They tried some other things and all of that. And we set up all the machinery in there, got everything working.
Did you have to make patterns when you were there, or did you do that?
No, I used to make patterns. That was my part of the job, when Vic Mixa retired. He was already, of a retirement age, when maybe a year or two after I came in there. And then he retired, and then the foreman said, well, who wants to become this group leader here, or I don't know what they called them at that time. And he asked all the people that had more seniority, than me, which is right. I didn't. although I knew I was better than that. But anyway, he was stuck with me, so he said, okay, you're the one, because so then I started making the patterns, with Vic Mixa showed me how. You didn't need a college education on that. Very few drafting tools that you really needed and all of that to make those patterns. I needed to know how to read a ruler and stuff like that. But I mean, it wasn't really that hard making them, and all of that. But there were no computers at that time, so they took a photographic shot, 12 inches they blew it. The customer gave you a sample maybe about this high maybe, and then they blew that up to 12 inches. And photographically, everything was way out of
Oh, it would distort?
distorted and everything, and all that. So the one time I says, well, I always dialed, not, I always do some changes.
A little of your own alterated?
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things you have to do, to make everything fit and all of that, But none of it ever came back, so they must have liked it.
Could you explain a little bit of the physical part of it? Because I know once you've got that sketch and you enlarge it, you do have to get that onto a piece of wood for your pen.
Yeah, you used to draw an outfit, but you took the hefts of each line, the thickness or of each line and everything, and then you make sure it's uniform on all the letters and all of that. So we made a little block, and then here's for this much, how much this goes, how much, to make everything uniform. And it wasn't one of the main little tools we used. It's around here because Georgie over there brought it up to me. Is this what you were talking about? And yes, I said, that's the one. I mean, that's where you got all your hefts. You set it up for 12 lines, and all of that. And then you took your hefts on each letter, from the original copy that the customer sent. So everything would be what you want, not what was blown up. So there's lots of work. It took about 80 hours to make a set of patterns. And those 80 hours, well, that would be your caps, lowercase, and ciphers. Plus anything else they wanted on there, Lots of times they wanted like a dollar sign. They wanted a half sign. Well, yeah, but that's only a smaller pattern and all. So the only patterns I made was, you had to make the 12-inch patterns. And then all the smaller patterns were made off of that, what we call the master pattern. And all the smaller patterns were made off that master pattern using the
The back pantographs?
Pantograph, yeah, pantograph. I'm sorry, sometimes my memory goes a little bit.
You were saying that the larger stuff, the 72-line type, for example, would have been cut on the machine right behind us, though, right?
Oh yeah, but this was mostly side grain wood. So
Right.
we had the wood that prepared special in the wood department and on the bottom floor over there. And they were like small planks, you know, and then we tell them what sizes we want over there. And then so they if it wasn't wide enough, they glued two pieces together. And then when it came upstairs, then we used it on the height machine. And that height machine was rough on that kind of wood. I mean, especially if you had running a wide one like for W's and M's, you know, and then your saw is going round and round and round, and then you have to lift it up and then push it back and back to the right gauge, and then till it gets back to speed again, and all of that. And then we cut it. Well, it was my job to cut it to line even after that, you know. And then that's what we used that wood for on this here larger machine over here. Besides, if you have a pattern that's 3 inches high, you can't get 3-inch high type off there. Right. So you can get a 6-line off of an 18-line pattern, or 8-line, or 10-line you can get off of there. And well, if you want to get a 9-line, but 9-line wasn't used very often. So, and then off of a 30-line pattern, well, you get the 12-line type and 18-line type. You could almost get a 24 off of it. So then, but you couldn't get no 6 inches. Besides these half-moon pieces of wood, we only cut that with the end of 6 inches. That's about the limit we used to go on that stuff.
With the end grain.
Yeah.
I'll just, for the audience, those who don't print again, when we refer to the line of type, there are 6 lines to an inch. Picas and lines in printers' terminology are interchangeable. So when Norb is talking about 72-line type, that is a foot tall. And there are really common sizes that we use. 6-inch being pretty common, as is 5, as is certain sizes. But you can make a pattern from a pattern as you work your way down to smaller sizes.
Yeah, yeah.
When you were at HWT, were you the only type cutter, or no, Mardell was there as well? Is that right?
Well, I wasn't a type cutter. I mean, don't get me wrong that I was a type cutter. I was a machine hand.
Okay.
I ran all the machines, all the saws, everything over there. Even cut my fingers.
So really then you were more running the wood through as
Well, yeah, I
opposed to the
mean, being among the outfits, I picked up the pantograph too, you know, and all that. In fact, there was one instance where they laid off the whole department, but then they kept me on there. He says, here, run this job through on the pantograph while the people are off that week, you know. So I put it on a pantograph and I ran it off. And I took, the job that they gave me had a very good rate. Very good rate, so I didn't have to kill myself working there.
When the museum opened then, certainly your time was done at HWT, because they closed in 92, I think.
Oh yeah, well, when I went to that HWT, I was already 60 years old. So I didn't have very far to go. Mm-hmm. And then I was vested at Hamilton for my pension plan. So I wasn't afraid of losing my pension from Hamilton. And I got to be 62 years old. And I saw that the type shop is just about over, you know, they're making wood type and all that. Mm-hmm. So then I retired. But then I worked there part-time, you know, just to get my insurance coverage. So then I retired, you know, and that was about it. And then I start volunteering at this Peter's Pantry in Manawoc. I was volunteering 12 years for them, and then pretty soon Mr. Van Lanen, he was coming up and asking about this and asking, and saying that they're going to be starting a museum, that he bought the equipment, you know, from Jim Kearns over there. Mm-hmm. And on that 1999, when they're dedicating the old museum, which isn't there anymore. Yeah. The old Tommy Thompson was there. The governor used to be there and all that. So I was shaking hands with it all. And that's when I decided to volunteer with the museum.
Did you help set up the press room when they opened the museum? No,
I had nothing to do with that. I'm not that dumb to come in when there's work to do.
Well,
no, I was still working for Peter's Pantry.
Okay.
You know, and all of that. I liked that Peter's Pantry job because I was driving a truck and we're going to Sheboygan every day, or else someplace else they call you know, Hilbert we went one time, mm-hmm. and nobody was there except me, so I had to pick a load up from some cheese factory. And here I had to load that truck all myself. But it was nice, you know. That's where I got so fat at that time. At Pine River Dairy, they got a chocolate where they make chocolates over there. And then they gave the pantry lots, you know, after the season over, they gave the pantry lots of chocolate. And over there, and have some. And the eyes were bigger than my stomach.
Well, when I first got to know you, it was when I was still volunteering at the museum. I hadn't been employed there yet, and you weren't there every day, but typically when you were in, you were cutting, I'd say generally the reverse type for nameplates and things like that, right? Along with maybe a few other small jobs?
Well, yeah, I had by a certain day to work in there and all that, but it seems like there weren't very many people coming to volunteer and all that. Although even at that time, there were lots of people coming that were from overseas. From England, I bumped into some from Germany, you know. There was a girl there even from Poland, you know. And there were lots of people coming in, but so there was some interest in it, but it wasn't getting out to everybody. But then you had the manager before Jim. They lined up at, I think, Mr. Van Lanen lined up this Nagan, or what's her name?
Greg Corrigan.
No, Corrigan.
Oh, with the typeface
the woman.
film. Yeah, Justine Nagan, right.
Justine Nagan, and then they start making this movie, you know, this typeface movie and all of that. And she had that spread over the whole world, it seems like.
Yeah.
In fact, I still have a woman from Tanzania that still writes to me. I saw your movie and I thought you were great. And then what did I do in there? All I said, I was going toward a light switch with my back turned, and I said, "Where are all the people?" And everybody took that to heart. Where are all the people? The place is folding up and all that, which wasn't true that were full. But anyway, you know, lots of, that started lots of interest in this museum.
Yeah, it sure did.
Yeah.
So that was really the beginning and the end of your film career.
That's
Right,
first and last, yeah.
Well, you know, you certainly remember Paul Broun. Paul came to the museum quite a bit
Yes.
alone and with students, and he had once pointed out to me the fact that you could have been somebody who didn't really care that much about the history of it, and you know, you put a lot of time in, not just with his students, but with a lot of people, which was a big deal, you know, because I know I learned a lot about the pantograph from you, but you know, because you were there so much, a lot of people really got to see a lot of the museum from somebody who worked there. Certainly the other volunteers that worked there were pretty great about it as well, but it was a big deal that you were there because you were always
Well, yeah, I mean, anybody that came in whenever, but towards the end, I wasn't taking very many people around because the only reason I was running the pantograph, there was nobody else to run it at that time, you know. And this Mark Dell that runs the pantograph now with my daughter, learned back there. She runs it now, you know. So anyway, at least there's one person I taught how to run the pantograph. For a guy that hasn't been a pantograph operator.
Yeah. So, what do you think of the Brylski typeface?
Well, I like the typeface, but I don't think it's a kind of typeface that you're going to use much for printing. It's more for a headline.
Right.
One year, possibly a short one, or because it's so spread out, so extended. Extended, that's the word.
Right. Right. Yeah, and that member of the museum's artistic board, Nick Sherman, designed the typeface and called it Brylski after Norb, which I think is a nice and appropriate thing. I know that I got to watch the two of you making some of the patterns for it, which was a good education for me and probably for Nick as well. I think we realized that sometimes you have to vary the design a little bit to make it work.
Yeah.
Well, I sure appreciate you sitting and talking with us today. It's been pretty great. You made my job pretty easy because I didn't have to ask the questions, you just answered them. But I just want to say thanks, not for just today, but being so helpful in making the museum a success as well. So
well, thank you anyway.
all right, fair enough. Could we talk into answering a few questions, if there are any?
I thought that's what I was doing.
Well, there might be more. We could always open it up to the audience.
Oh.
Although I do have one more, if you're interested.
No, doctor says I can only drink a half a can of beer.
Okay.
Or else a small glass of wine.
All right.
Okay.
What if that wasn't the question? When you were in between Pulaski and Two Rivers in terms of moving, you occasionally had to stay in Two Rivers, right?
Well, I did not. The first year I didn't, but the second year we had so much of it. So I stayed at Two Rivers and I stayed at the Waverly Inn. And I left the family back home, see? And I had the freedom then, And anyway, that at that time it cost me $7 a week for a room over there,
And how many kids did you have at that time?
Oh, I think there were about 13 of us, 12 or something, 12 I guess, yeah.
So somebody was pretty busy.
Yeah. Well, I came from a family of 13, and then I have a family of 13. And I wouldn't give any one of them back.
Well, that's good. That's good. Are there any questions from the audience? Well, you're off the hook.
Good.
I guess now all we need to worry about is a small glass of wine or something, I guess. Well, thanks again, and thanks to all of you. We appreciate it. We also appreciate Jeff Benzo helping out in recording this. It preserves it forever. So, thanks again.